Yeah, thank you. So good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. We'll kick off this hearing on state project number 0105-0221. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the folks online. My name is Carl Fortuna. I'm the first selectman. To my left is Devin Carney, our state representative. Also decided to come tonight, which is great. So a couple years ago, the state contacted me. I don't know which of you gentlemen called me, had the unfortunate phone call and said that this project had to basically be redone. And, you know, we've talked a few times in the interim in terms of how to present that and when to present it. And thank you to Larry Hayden, our IT guy, for setting this up. Larry's been invaluable setting up a lot of these hybrid meetings, but we're going to turn it right over to the state for an explanation of what is going on here and how you guys intend to fix the issue that was created with the original repair. So I want to thank you all for being here and, you know, putting this presentation forward to the public, because it's really important for people to hear what you have to say. So thank you, and I'll let you start with the presentation.
Thank you very much, First Selectman Fortuna. My name is Jonathan Kemp. I'm the project manager with State Bridge Design. So I'll begin with can you start sharing? There we go. So we got our presentation. So if you could get to our first slide. So I'll begin by giving a brief agenda of first. Thank you. There you go. There we go. So I'll give a brief agenda. So we have about a 15-20 minute presentation we'll go through. Where we'll go through, first I'll introduce the project team, then we'll go through our presentation of the bridge. We'll give an overview of the bit of the site. We'll go through the project background, the purpose and need, why we're back out here so soon. We'll go to the proposed design and construction. We'll also discuss traffic considerations, as well as construction impacts and schedule. And then we will open the floor to a live question and answer session. As far as question and answer session after our presentation, we will open the floor up both for people on Zoom and in attendance. We ask that you please give us your questions, comments, and concerns regarding this project. And then also for the next 2 weeks. So if you're like me, you drive off, you think of something later, oh shoot, I wish I asked that. There are a few different ways to contact us. We'll keep this question and answer session open for another 2 weeks. My email is up there, jonathan.kemp@ct.gov. You can also reach us by phone, 860-594-2020. So that is a voicemail. So if you leave a voicemail, we just ask that you please leave the reference of project 105-221. Also, we will come back to this slide at the end in case anyone wants to take a picture of it for reference. So we will come back to this with all this information. Also, our project website has all the information also laid out. For our project team, with us today is Derek Lazard. He's our division chief of bridges. Andy Cardinale, he's our principal engineer with State Bridge Design. I'm the project manager. After I present, Greg Lazard will go through. He is our project engineer. And then Greg DeArmond is our design engineer. He will also speak regarding the project. So a little information. Title VI, your civil rights. All this information more thoroughly is up on the website if you'd like to read through it. But the main point is no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. Also on the website, we have a post-meeting survey, as well as some Title VI information. Also on our YouTube channel, will be a copy of this presentation, so you can also watch back if you'd like to see any more questions or details or something you may have missed during the presentation. Here's a further description of Title VI. Here's the legalese of it. Again, all this is up on our website. So if you want to read through it. And then we also have, on the next slide, we also have the same Title VI in Spanish, which I will not try to read out loud to you today. And then also we're presenting on Zoom. So anyone on Zoom, you can also ask questions. So using the Zoom Q&A tool at the bottom of the webinar, the Q&A window will open to the right, and then please type your question in the text box and click answer. We will be monitoring the session, and any questions asked we will also read off and answer during our live question and answer session at the conclusion of the presentation. So with that, I will hand it off to Ray Bassar to introduce the project.
Thank you, John. Well, good evening, everyone, again. Thank you for joining us tonight. So first, I'm just gonna recap the project location and give some information about the current bridge. And then we'll go over some of the project background, what happened and why we're here today. And then eventually we'll go to the proposal details that we're gonna cover. And then thereafter, we're gonna go to Q&A session. Next slide, please. Okay, so what's up on screen is a 3D aerial view of this site. So Saybrook, that's Route 1 right there. This is Route 154. That's the intersection right there. And this is where the bridge 2708, the bridge of concern, is located over Plum Creek, which is about 1.1 miles south of the intersection of Route 1 to 154, and about 500 miles south of Harvey's Beach and 500 feet north of Town Beach. So here is a closer view. What's encircled here is the bridge 2708. It's a zoom view, the bird's eye. What's on the right-hand side is the marshland, and what's on the left-hand side is the ocean, and that's Plum Creek. This is some information about the bridge, what's out there currently. We built the bridge in 2021 because the original bridge was old. It was built in early 1900s, which experienced early 1930s, 40s, a major scour issue. So, and then because it was aged, so we had to replace that bridge. So, so the current bridge is made out of pre-stressed deck units, which is forming integral abutment structures supported on piles. The curved width of the current bridge out there right now is 30 feet, and out is 36 feet. The structural span length from here to here is 43 feet, has no skew and clear span from base of the abutment or base of support. The base of the support is 40 feet. That's a clear span. The average daily traffic is 3,600 vehicles per day, 2% of which being the truck traffic based on the traffic count in 2022. So some images here. What has been shown on the left-hand side is the northbound approach to the bridge there where the bridge is right now. This is the marshland, and this is the ocean side of the creek. And what is being shown on the right-hand side is just a reverse. That's the marshland, and that's the creek in there, and that's the southbound approach. Some elevation of the bridges, these images capturing that. So in this image on the left-hand side, we're looking towards east. Look, this is the ocean side, looking towards marshland. And then the one on the right-hand side is looking west from the marshland towards the ocean. So these images capturing the bridge supports or abutments. What has been shown here is these are the existing abutments. These are the revetments, and please note, this is the new abutments or support that was built in 2021. They were built behind the existing abutments. We maintain the existing abutments in there. This there are two images here. Again, this is looking east, this is looking towards the marshland, and this is looking towards the ocean. Okay, now some information about the project background. So what happened, what challenges, design challenges or site constraints that we deal with when we were building the bridge back in 2021. The major thing was I just noted the existing abutments of the original bridge that was built in the early 1900s. So we kept the existing abutments in there because of a scouring event in the early 1900s. They came in and built concrete struts within the channel, abutment to abutment. So in order not to interrupt that, because there's a scour prone site, so what we decided to do is we build the proposed abutments behind the existing abutments, which resulted increasing the span length of the bridge, because the span length of the bridge from support to support has increased. We had to make the superstructure deeper, and that was about 12 inches deeper than the original one. So we maintained the roadway elevation as close to existing as possible. So what happened was that caused, lowering the low work of the structure. So when you make that decision, we have to work around these design constraints. So, but we try to minimize changes to the existing roadway profile, so we can raise the road. And we try to minimize the impacts, because the bridge is located within a regulated area being monitored by the state and federal environmental agencies. So we've try to minimize impacts of tidal wetlands and the water course itself. In addition to that, we try to minimize regrading the roadway and the rights of way acquisitions, especially for the properties directly abutting to the bridge. Next slide, please. Okay, so now the current structure it satisfies the structural requirements and specifications. It meets all the state and federal codes and regulations. What we did in 2021 is increase the hydraulic performance of the site and increase the conveyance area. The conveyance area is being the opening there that conveys the water through. It enhanced the condition of the bridge because we maintain the existing abutments and the concrete strut that I just mentioned. In addition to that, the revetment that we built in between the new and the existing abutments, we improved the structure scour and flood protection of the site. So, but what we had was a low court, as I mentioned, was lower than the original elevation. So this helped to reduce overall impacts within the project limits. And but what we ended up having is that but this information was not conveyed to the permit applications. Elevation shown a permit application, so because of that, there was a discrepancy in between the two. As a result, the bridge as constructed right now in there does not comply with the certain applicable coastal statutes. Specifically, the one that requires the coastal highway improvements, including bridges code and code, in no case decrease coastal access and recreational opportunities. So right now, the current bridge has a low court that needs to be raised to satisfy this coastal statute requirement. And the structure still, it needs to comply with the coastal statute as well as tidal and wetland regulations. So what is the corrective action? So that's going to be the next slide, and I will hand off that to Greg at this moment. He's the design engineer, so he's going to give some brief information about the proposal.
All right. Thank you very much, Raymond, for your review of the original project and background information related to the project as well. My name is Gregory D. Armit, and I'm a design engineer for the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Just to present further, the proposed project has a purpose of raising the bridge superstructure to restore the original low chord elevation. This will ensure coastal and recreational access from Plum Bank Creek. The project does improve the navigational clearance while maintaining the lowest practical roadway profile. The construction to raise the bridge superstructure will require raising the roadway profile approximately 8.5 inches from its current alignment. Portions of the bridge back walls, wing walls, and parapet barriers will also need to be removed and reconstructed. Furthermore, the water main will need to be temporarily relocated, and Plum Bank Road will undergo 2 road closures: a shorter closure to relocate the water main and a longer closure to enable construction. The project is needed to meet the coastal and tidal wetland regulatory requirements, as Raymond discussed earlier. And we're also needing to minimize the impacts to wetlands, waterway, roadway, and the approach gradient, as well as right-of-way acquisitions. Just want to review an overhead plan view. This is from looking above of the site and Bridge 2708. The bridge supports Route 154, Plum Bank Road, and the tidal waters of Plum Bank Creek run underneath. We'll give it a second. No worries, there's a little lag. Okay. So portions of the concrete wing walls, parapets, as well as portions of the back wall will need to be removed and reconstructed. The wing walls and parapets at the corner of the bridge will be removed at all four corners in order to enable the raising of the bridge superstructure. Furthermore, the approach roadways will need to be regraded. The slope embankments will need to be regraded to support higher roadway. The slope limits of that roadway increase are shown in brown currently. And the project is anticipated to occur entirely within state right-of-way limits. This is just a typical cross-section of the current bridge looking southwards. Supports two 11-foot travel lanes and two 4-foot shoulders. There's a water main to the east side as well. There's 11 different pre-stressed concrete deck slab units that are they have hollow voids in them as well, and they're 21 inches deep. The superstructure will remain the same. So we're going to present the elevation views of the bridge. This is the opening, kind of looking from the water. The current bridge has a clear span of 40 feet. And the revetments and the substructure of the bridge foundation are expected to remain generally as is. The bridge superstructure will be raised to restore the original low board elevations. Again, portions of the parapets, the wing walls, and the back walls, especially at the corners, will be removed to enable the raising of the superstructure. The current elevations are shown in blue, and the proposed elevations up top are shown in red. And on the next slide, we'll see the western elevation view similarly. Again, here we can see the original elevations of the current bridge shown in blue underneath. And up top, we can see the proposed elevation of that 8.5-inch raise of the bridge superstructure. Again, this is the original bridge here. After there was some flooding that occurred previously, concrete struts were put into the channel for the old original bridge, and this was to deter flooding, sort of scour possibilities and eroding of the channel underneath that supports the bridge. So, you're fine, you're fine. So that's why we had to hop over these original abutment supports. So it was difficult to provide shoring in front of them and support with the concrete struts. It was hard to drive sheeting in there in order to make a space at the same place, and furthermore affects the channel less and provides additional scour protection for the current structure. All right, a major part of this construction will be raising the bridge superstructure. The contractor will need to excavate behind the abutments to gain access. Portions of the concrete bridge will need to be removed at all four corners of the bridge, including portions of the parapet, which we have shown in red, as well as portions of the cast-in-place wing wall. Then, a horizontal cut or equivalent will need to take place in order to separate the superstructure of the bridge from the substructure supports. The images on the right, those are just a previous example of a concrete cutting operation. It's not likely we're going to get a big enough saw in to get one saw to saw the superstructure from the substructure. However, I do want to note that the contractor may elect to use their own means and methods to separate the superstructure from the substructure. This is just showing portions of the concrete deck ends along the back wall of the superstructure that will need to be removed in order to enable the placement of bridge jacking devices, which will jack the bridge up slowly and uniformly. The superstructure will be jacked and raised, and temporary incompressible supports will be placed in order to restore the original low chord elevation of the bridge. The concrete deck ends and back walls will be removed further, as in the middle image there. And then new deck reinforcement will be doweled into existing concrete in order to place the necessary reinforcement for the reconstructed deck ends and back wall. Then the parapet barriers and cast in place wind wall portions will be reconstructed. The approach roadways and the embankment slopes will be rebuilt leading up to the bridge, and the road will have to support a higher roadway profile. Next, and many of you may be familiar with this already, want to present a traffic detour that's being proposed by the department. The detour route is the same that was utilized for the 2021 project. Once again, construction would be enabled by full road closure and detour. And Route 154 would be fully closed from Harvey's Beach driveway in the north and Tom's Road to the south. Access to residences will still be available from either side of the project. The signed detour will take approximately 8 minutes and be about 4 miles in length. And the detour route will include Old Boston Post Road, Main Street, as well as Maple Avenue. The road closure and detour is expected to take approximately 8 weeks, and the closure will occur outside of beach season between Labor Day and Memorial Day. Again, the average daily traffic here is about 3,600 vehicles a day, and there will be a shorter secondary closure that may be needed to temporarily relocate the attached water main. Speaking of utilities, this is again an overhead view, just to kind of review the utility impacts for this project. The current water main shown in blue is attached to the bridge, and it will need to be temporarily relocated in order to enable room for construction. We do want to note interruptions to service are expected to be minimal. Here we have a shown temporarily relocated further east in green. That would involve constructing temporary supports further east to serve as a bypass and make room for the construction. We want to note that coordination with Connecticut Water is ongoing and subject to change. The permanent water main will be reattached to the raised bridge. We anticipate these overhead utility poles and utilities to remain in place as is for the project. We're going to review some various environmental impacts to consider. The project is located right here on the coast within FEMA flood hazard zone BE. Impacts to tidal wetlands delineated on both sides of Route 154 are also anticipated, especially along the approaching roadway slopes to support the higher roadway. The proposed bridge improvement does restore the original low chord elevation and will ensure coastal and recreational access from Plum Creek. This enables compliance with coastal statutes and tidal wetland regulations. Construction will occur primarily on the bridge superstructure rather than in the water channel, and it limits the construction activities in the waterways. And the proposed construction will maintain the current state of fish passage underneath. Just want to review some anticipated permits with you all. On the state level from CTD, we'll need to acquire an individual flood management certification, as well as permitting for structures, dredging, hill and tidal wetlands. Federally, pre-construction notification will be needed from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Additionally, want to review an overview of the project schedule and costs. Construction is anticipated to begin in the spring of 28. Unconfined in-water work is restricted to the period between June 1st and September 30th. Final design plans are anticipated by the end of 2027. The construction duration for the project is expected to be 1 season, with road closure and primary construction occurring outside of the prime beach season between, after Labor Day in the fall. Shorter road closure will be occurring 2 to 3 weeks before Memorial Day during the spring of 2028 and is expected to be needed in order to temporarily relocate the water main. And the project is estimated to cost approximately $3.4 million, utilizing 100% state funds. We also want to note that the schedule is subject to the availability of funding, right-of-way acquisitions if necessary, and permitting. Just want to review let you know your comments, questions, participation, and our answers from tonight's meeting will be posted on the project webpage in the coming days as a report of meeting. You can send a question or comment via email or phone, or also just a moment with us here tonight or via Zoom. Please include the project number in your correspondence and note that the comment period is open until Thursday, September 10th, 2026. We want to graciously thank you for your time, participation, presence, and attention this evening. And we'd like to open up the discussion for a question and answer session with you all here today.
Yes, sir. Let's start with Plum Road. Yes. Yes, sir.
So I just have a couple of questions. So the bridge over the Back River, which is just north of there, that was put in 2 years ago, I guess.
Couple years after this one was built, yep.
Why does this condition not exist for that bridge as well? Because that's very low as well to the river.
Amanda, do you have any?
I mean, I can answer that. So that structure maintained the existing low chord elevation for that structure that was existing at that point. So it maintained what was there originally.
So the other question, and I'm Scott Loveland, and anybody who was involved in that bridge probably remembers who I am. The other question I have, and you know, you're raising the bridge, that's great. But with rising sea levels, you're gonna have the same exact problem in a few years. So this doesn't really solve the problem, in my opinion. It's another $3 million of wasted money.
So again, as we mentioned, it's the coastal statute. It's a state requirement. It's the state statute says that we have to restore it. We cannot lower the existing low chord, and we have to maintain the access and move from the Plum Bank Creek. That's one of the reasons why we have to restore the existing elevation, why we have to raise the bridge. So we will take notes again, and after the meeting, we're gonna have more meetings with regulators. So that's gonna be brought up front, and we're gonna further discuss with both state and federal regulators.
But I think to answer your question is why not go higher is basically the original
When
question.
this something that we requested on the Back River Bridge for North Street and done.
So if we were to go higher, we increase the environmental impacts. We're also limited with the structural capacity of what we have at the structure. Because it was designed as this case, so we're already going taller, so we're increasing the forces on it.
I'm just saying that, you know, I grew up here. I've been on this street for 73 years. And when I was a kid, we used to be able to get boats with windshields under that bridge. You can barely get a kayak under those bridges now. So the problem is it's just gonna be duplicated. You're not gonna be able to have navigation of that marshland in the future.
So again, as John mentioned, one of the constraints is the structural capacity. The second constraint is if you want to raise it, much higher, that's going to cause a lot of rights of way issues. And regrading all that site, that's going to increase environmental impact to the tidal wetlands.
It's just a matter of fact that Back River all the way up to the marshland is not gonna be accessible in the future. It's not much better what the is.
Sorry, but I think he was first. Okay, I apologize. I'll get back to you. Yes, sir.
My question is, first of all, what happened that the bridge has to be raised when both bridges were put in, they were supposed to be put in at the right height? Why is this bridge lower? Is it a construction problem in the beginning that somebody messed up?
So
Why do you have to spend this money? We're spending all this money over again to build a bridge that you built 2 years ago. That should be at the right height. Why is it lower? And again, if you're gonna raise it, why can't we raise it a little higher so you can get a paddle board under there? And so that's another, and my other question is this. In the beginning, we had a problem with the tide going up, right? So it was destroying the land. Going out towards the ocean, you say, towards, okay, the docks over there and everything, all the land that was up to the dock is now gone. So you're supposed to widen that bridge to make it so the tide would not be so forceful, but you never took out the old embankment. So that water pressure is not changed any. So why wouldn't that be taken out and making it wider? So when you have the high tide that's up now and the low, there'll be less pressure going out.
So let me answer your second and third question. So we did just discuss this. So again, we had constraints to raising it for number one, the structural capacity right now, because we can do that.
Right.
And if we were able to make it, raising it, so we have to build a bigger bridge. But again, that's gonna bring a lot of constraints, right?
What caused it in the beginning?
So,
Spent all that money.
So as to why it was too low, so this structure is considerably longer than the first one was. The first one was 12 to 15 feet, and this one's now 40 feet, so we about tripled it in length.
Yeah.
So you have deeper section now, because it's a longer structure, we needed a deeper section to get the structural capacity out of it. So rather than raise the roadway profile, so by opening it hydraulically, it was adequate. So hydraulically and structurally, it was adequate. There was an oversight as far as this being navigable water. That was just missed. So
That was last week.
and that was, after it was constructed, it was brought up to us that this one was lower than existing. And then we went back, we looked at it, and we saw, yes, this is lower than it should be, and this is the project that was initiated to address it. So that's kind of the background of how we got there, and also the kind of engineering decision behind it and how we got there. So it checked off a lot of the boxes, but it missed one, and this one is a state statute regarding regulations.
So are you gonna go up 8.5 inches where it is now?
Correct, 8.5 inches, which would match what was the opening
Which
before.
you opened before,
Correct.
and you couldn't go any higher.
So
12
it-
inches.
So again, we cannot go any higher because actually,
Could be construction of the.
well, again, so if the current structure has capacity, right? So as we keep raising it, that will be a lot of forces, the earth pressure, right? It's gonna be acting, so the bridge is not built. To the initial intention was not exactly, so that wasn't intended. Your last question about making it bigger, so we just discussed it a couple of weeks ago with our hydraulic engineers. That wouldn't change the outcome. So what governs the water level here is that the mean high water is the ocean side, it's the tide. That's what it governs, so this opening does not govern the level of water.
Yeah, but I understand it, but. The reason they were widening it and all was, the big reason was because of that pressure going out. They want to relieve the pressure. So that it wouldn't be so strong. So that pressure hasn't changed, even though it's up higher, when it comes down, it's running through that little path. You wanna try to, you wanna see what it's doing, check the embankments, check what that's doing. You haven't treated that at all. And I thought that was one thing you were gonna do, is widen it so it'd be less force of water going out. Causing damage to the marsh and damage to the other side. That's where I thought was happening, and it's not happening. I don't know if everybody else here agrees or not.
Right, not on constructability with the existing structure.
Okay, so, sure,
I'm
so.
sure the selectmen knows that too.
So again, back to the current design, so what happened was, in 2021, when we designed this bridge, our intention was to minimize the impact, the existing scour protection in the area. So what we decided to do, okay, we're gonna maintain all these, believe it or not, the allotments were much higher, so we cut them down to the elevation. So it act as a shield, right? So because it's a tidal area, there is no pressure flow at this site. So there's no pressure flow.
So you couldn't take those original ones out and push it to the end to make it.
Well, we could, but that would not improve the hydraulic conveyance. No, that would not. Again, we have done the hydraulic report. The road is substandard. So if there is a major storm event, the current roadway is not gonna handle that. It's gonna be overtopped with water. So the main purpose here is to build a bridge, because the original bridge built in 1900s, early 1900s, was degraded, so it was like in that horrible shape, so we had to rebuild. So the goal is not to correct the hydraulic issue, because we have to raise the entire stretch of 154 along that point there, like along the corner there, to be able to bring it to standard, make it standard, not substandard. So,
So to address kind of your constructability, think about, he mentioned the concrete struts that are in between the original abutments. In order to remove those abutments and the concrete struts, right, you'd have to drive sheeting, de-water the area. You can't drive the sheeting in between where the concrete struts are. So in order, the team here, when we design DOT in general, right, we try and minimize our impacts as much as possible. Maintaining the original abutments without touching the concrete struts allows us to build outside of those abutments and not have impacts to the waterway. Correct. I'm saying everything's possible, but your impacts increase, and then you have regulators that restrict us from having certain number of impacts. So we're trying to work within the confines of that.
We would basically have to cut the water off the entire system in the back, really, to fully take that out.
I think that's-
Would not be.
Yep.
something
Okay,
regular.
just wanted to check on how that is.
Thanks.
so thank you. Yes, sir.
Just wondering why, we're gonna spend $3.4 million. Close the road down for months, so that all the people that live over there are gonna have to go 4 miles around. Just to go to the supermarket or go to school, or whatever they're gonna do. To raise the bridge 8.5 inches. What sense does that make? I know it's not, doesn't comply with state regulations, but so what? Why would we spend that kind of money and this makes so many people have to change their routes in their lives to raise that bridge 8.5 inches, so maybe a couple of kayakers can go under there at high tide?
So we understand your frustration. We're not happy to be here, right? And not something we want to be doing. I'd rather be home with my son right now, right? Than we're trying to push this through, but,
How old is your son?
he's 2.5. So with that said, we are held to the state statutes and regulations, and that's our requirement. And I think Ray alluded to this. I talked to a few in the back. We're documenting all the comments, and the comments that we receive here, we will bring back to the regulators and discuss them. This is part of our process here. We have to go through this.
Just
We
let-
are
let them
required
know
this.
that I don't.
Understood. That's no. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a low chord measurement. Why is it only 8.5 inches? Why is it 5 inches? Why is it 9 inches? What are we coming?
8.5 is to match what it was prior to construction. So the pre-2021 bridge, that was the low chord elevation. So the 8.5 inches is the delta between where it's at now and where it was. So that's to get it back to matching existence.
So where do you measure that in? That,
It was the low point of the existing bridge, so it's the bottom of the superstructure. So in this case, it's the bottom of our concrete boxes.
okay, so
it's
you
the-
put in a thicker bottom and now you've lowered that requirement. So now we have to raise it up.
Yeah, so it's the lowest of the low points, so they're not exactly like one was square, one was angled.
Right.
So it's going to be the low point will match what the previous low point. So the entire elevation is not gonna be the same, but it will be no lower than a previous.
So that's the bridge, but what about the water line? Where are you measuring the distance from? Low tide, high tide?
So they provide the
So,
water.
So it's elevation, it's not a measurement from any other datum other than the actual elevations of the bridge.
Zero level,
So-
zero.
It's where it is.
So you're gonna spend, what, estimated $3.5 million? You ever hear of a variance?
We do have very. So,
Yes. So I think maybe all of us can agree that the water level over the last 100 years has maybe come up a little bit. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
well, I mean, maybe, I don't know, whether it's an inch or 2 inches. And you're matching a bridge that was built 100 years ago. For a low chord elevation. And it just seems like if you were to modernize that and then to 2026, I mean, the low port elevation 100 years ago, there was probably maybe 10 inches if you were to, and now it's 8.5 because let's say the water's come up a little bit. So, you know, that low port elevation is a relative term. It's not really matching what the bridge was maybe 100 years ago. Is that true or not true?
Yes, so you would still have, if the water goes up, you have less clearance, even if the bridge is in the same point of space.
Right, but you're matching what it was,
Well,
what the bridge was, you're matching 100 years ago.
yeah, but the span length has increased, right? So our hydraulic opening has increased also.
Yes.
Right, so before, what was the span length? The original was 12 to 15.
Yeah, much more.
Now we're 40. Right, so your opening,
Okay.
once it gets above the original abutments is, there's more.
But from the navigational standpoint, it's not improved, it's worse, but in terms of conveyance hydraulic, yes, it's improved. Yes, sir.
I believe part of the question is, who actually sets these parameters? As my first selectman was saying, do they go back 100 years? What do they use to make this determination?
Could you go back, please, from the coastal statute? So, again, per regulations, yeah, so this is in quote unquote what the coastal statute says. In no case decrease coastal access and recreational opportunities.
Okay, yeah, I realize that, but what I'm saying is, do they investigate as far as are the water levels higher? Do they determine have they become higher in 100 years? Or do they just assume it's the same? Is there an entity that determines the bridge height based on current facts or stuff that was 100 years ago, as Mr. Fortuna asked?
You wanna
Is there a state entity that does that?
So we have an environmental expert here, so.
Yeah, so my name's Amanda Saul.
Thank
I'm the supervising planner of DOT's environmental permitting unit.
Okay.
So the way the state statutes are written, it doesn't directly address sea level rise in that way. It just makes reference to the existing conditions that are there today. So there is portions of the coastal management regulations that talk about resiliency. And that as a state agency, we're to address resiliency. And in this case, as Raymond indicated, at those record storm events, the whole roadway, the whole bridge goes underwater. So there's nothing we can do to get the bridge high enough to be out of that flooding condition, but the design that's built is resilient to the forces of those flood flows. So if we have a catastrophic event, the way the abutments are structured, the bridge will remain. Maybe the roadway has to be built. So that's the way that DOT approached making a resilient structure. But the statutes don't speak to, state agencies should take into account precisely sea level.
Right, that's what I was curious.
Yeah.
When they engineer it, do they refer to those different factors?
I think, and I'm not the hydraulic expert, I think the hydraulic analysis does take, some consideration, but in this case, we're looking at like what FEMA considers storm events, which are well over top of the roadway and the bridge, so.
Thank you.
And can I ask you?
Yes.
How does this help? How does raising the bridge 8.5 inches help?
It satisfies that state statute requirement.
But how does it help?
Yeah.
It's, the state statute requires us to maintain recreational access under the structure. And the fact that the existing, or the bridge that was just built, was built lower than that. In theory, it restricts recreational access. Right.
How many people in a year go under that bridge? You go higher. You're gonna talk about $3.4 million, closing the road down for months.
Yeah.
So that a couple of people can going to the bridge, maybe at high time.
So we're gonna take your comment down. Bring it back.
Yes, sir.
You know, obviously, people are thrilled that we're spending it there. We know that, we know they're coming.
Keep your voice up.
Oh, sure.
People online also want to hear.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, we're all disappointed that, that state's money is being spent on it. You and I spoke. And I'm assuming legal has looked at it and said that that statute can't be read, you can't materially impair access. Because 8 inches, someone might say is not material. I'm assuming your legal people have told you, no, that statute requires, there's no wiggle room. So a lot of these comments tonight are really addressed to people who aren't in this room, which would be our state legislature. That if they want to. I mean, the answer to that aspect is that the statute should probably, to address all the frustration and fairly realistic comments. People feel that with these 8 inches, spending $3.5 million probably doesn't make sense. Putting that all aside, I'm a resident of Plum Road. And what's evident to me is that the flooding is getting worse every year. The sea level is going up. And it looks to me like this is sort of spitting into the wind because this is just the beginning. You're gonna be coming back on that road eventually has to go up. Or we're gonna need a ferry to get out to that area. And I'm wondering, is there anything going on at the state level investigating that issue and what kinds of efforts have to be made to address it?
It's a known issue. I'll defer back to maybe Andy or Derek, but as far as the issue, it's a known issue. Our hydraulic people has calculated the numbers, so we have different design check and broad check measures. For 100-year, it's gonna be about 5 feet below water, and it's gonna be about 9 feet or so at 500-year storm event. It's a known thing. As far as the correction.
Yeah, your studies, I'm not aware of any specifically on this stretch here in 154, so. Are you aware of any, Andy, right now?
No, other than, based on, you know, like Gray is mentioning that, you know, you have the storm surge event, which is, 5 to 9 feet?
Correct.
5 to 9 feet, basically above the structure. So obviously, putting a structure at that point and what that impact is gonna have environmentally, rights of way and everything else that's associated with that is gonna be very, very extensive at that point. So there's a balance, right?
Just in conclusion, because I don't want to repeat myself. It seems to me that it's elementary for planning that our statute should take into account these factors. And we shouldn't be spending all this money that make what looks to be a minute change in the bridge, an expense and inconvenience to people around. And secondly, what is ultimately going to be needed there? Because why spend all this money on these little improvements if we really need a big improvement? Now, I know that's a big public policy issue. It goes way beyond Old Saybrook, the whole coastline. But it's frustrating as a resident of Old Saybrook, as a taxpayer in Connecticut, to see these things happening. It's not your issue. You're technically creating, a bridge that meets all the requirements and you do what you have to do. I'm really looking over on that side.
So, just quickly, I'm actually running to another meeting that I have to hop on virtually right now with the Gateway Commission. Number two, I wanted to make sure folks online and folks in the room know our chief of police is here. If there's any traffic or safety issues with regard to this project, I'm sure the Chief Onofrio will address them. Thirdly, to your comment, when the day comes that we're 8 to 12 inches higher, I think we all are gonna have a different discussion about where we're living along the shoreline too. Because some folks may not be able to live in their current houses. So That's the depressing comment that I'm gonna leave you with tonight as I run to somewhere else. Thank you, to the state.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing, why bridge bridging, they have to go bring all the roads to. You're absolutely correct. I mean, why you ever go over a bridge, you can't get to it?
So it will, when we raise it up, it won't be tied back in gradually.
Yeah.
So as you raise the roadway up, you tie it as it goes back into the road, so it's not just all there. So we do go a couple hundred feet either side of the bridge to gradually transition. But it is kind of, when we're in the bridge road, we do what are considered spot improvements, so we're very much at the bridge site and adjacent to it. And so we try to minimize that footprint because, I mean, as we look at this and as we kind of get into scope creep's very, very real with us. And for that first project, this bridge was in poor condition. Structurally, it was concerning, as you know, 90+ years old, but the goal was to kind of replace it and do whatever we can in the surrounding area. Because as you go up and down the road, there's always more you can do. So we try to minimize the impacts to kind of keep the costs down and also kind of stay within our specialty because, you know, this is being run by, you know, we're structural engineers. We do work with hydraulic engineers and highway engineers, but, you know, our main priority there was the bridge was in poor condition and that's what we wanted to address.
So why don't we, like, in 10 years, when we have to raise the road, then raise the bridge? Why do it now for $3.4 million?
Well, and that's why we did work with hydraulic, we did the hydraulic analysis, so. It's hydraulically better, I know it doesn't achieve everything,
I
but
think you build it better now.
the opening is considerably larger than it previously was.
Now, why?
During a storm event, it goes actually above the existing abutments that were left. So you have more conveyance.
But then the whole road has been done. Who's gonna go over the bridge?
Well,
If you can't.
The bridge itself is designed to be resilient in a storm event, so the bridge itself will be there. So, I mean, then the road would have to be reconnected up to it, but the bridge itself is designed to be resilient. Because that was really the scope of the project, was to address the structure itself to make that.
I just think, you know, you're gonna. A whole lot of people are gonna be inconvenienced, more than inconvenienced, because they're gonna have to go 4 miles out of their way. Not every day, now, you're talking about, what was the,
2 to 3 weeks is spring,
3,600?
3,600, and
Time
then 2
to
to 3
4
weeks,
miles is what?
2 to 3 weeks in the spring, 8 weeks in the fall.
And what is that, I mean, that's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
And a lot of hours, and a lot of gas money.
I think he was first, sorry about that.
Yeah,
I'll get back to you.
Gonna suggest that if you're gonna be negotiating with regulators about this, somebody take a hard look at Plum Creek. It's a very tiny creek. The mouth of it is not negotiable. Probably after half tide, it goes over sand flats. You can't get a kayak up there even at half tide. So, and the question of whether Plum Bank Creek is being cut off for recreational activity, Back River connects the Oyster River and Plum Creek. So if you want to get up Plum Creek, it's not, in fact, in the whatsoever, you just go around Oyster River. So you're really not cutting that area off from anybody. It's a tiny little tidal river. I've kayaked up it many times. It's great if you want to sit in the mud. But I would recommend if you're gonna be negotiating with somebody, that it really is not being cut off whatsoever. So maybe it's the elevation of the low court is virtually the same as the bridge just upstream. So if you can get onto that bridge, you can certainly get onto this one. So yes, it may not be the actual regulatory terminology now, but you should be able to negotiate out of that for $3.9 million. It's not, I recommend you take some pictures of what Plum Creek before you're gonna negotiate with anybody, they can see. It really dries up. You can almost see on Google Earth because there's nothing there.
And you work for the state, I assume.
Pardon me?
You work for the state before?
Thanks,
Yes, I did. I was actually a hydraulic engineer.
Mike Kelly?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we work together, so.
No, that bridge is, you can't make that bridge hydraulically adequate.
No way.
It's never gonna be hydraulically adequate.
It won't, no. Yes,
So I think he's spot,
oh,
Go ahead.
he's spot on. that view right there, I don't think is, I don't know how current that view is, but I'm 71 years grew up at Great Hammock Beach. And I can tell you that the erosion that has been created by both those bridges, no matter what you do, is gonna be an ongoing problem. There are people in those beach associations that are gonna have waterfront property because that tidal marsh is eroding at a rate that I've never seen it erode before. You know, and when you use the term recreational boating, you're talking what, kayak and canoe? Are you talking power boats? What are you referring to? And his point is spot on. Both accesses are filling in because of all the silt, because you have a constant swirl that wraps around. To your point, 100%, yes, and in a catastrophic storm, the mouth of that opening will allow that water to go out, but on a daily, regular tide flow, that water, the volume, we talk about hydraulic pressure, I think we clocked it at 35 miles an hour coming out of the Great Hammock Beach Bridge. So that water moves, So you have a challenge. And one of the last things, when we were involved in trying to get the state to say our point at Great Hammock, we asked them to reference the bridge that goes over Route 1 down by McDonald's. How is that bridge allowed to be such a large span with a large opening underneath, and you come here and you have a narrow opening in both spots, and 8.5 inches, you know your work, I challenge that because I've gone under that bridge and I can't imagine that 8.5 inches is gonna make that much of a difference trying to get a boat under that bridge.
Right.
Not gonna happen.
Oh, so I'll get back to you. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to go back to how this happened. I mean, he said, well, that was missed. This is a over 3 million mistake. How did that happen? Is that person still at their job?
So you can't point to one particular person to say that this person or this individual was the one who actually physically caused the mistake or missed the item. The plans themselves and all the work that goes into it is handled by multiple offices. There are a lot of different constraints that go into these projects. So as you're developing plans, certain things go into it. And at the time, there was information that was shown on the plans, but did not match what was in the application. So when you're looking at the plan itself, the original elevation was not shown on the plan. So when you did not have that there, the checks and balances were not there to actually catch that, right? So
Somebody that makes the final approval?
because that elevation was not shown there, it is difficult to correspond those two together, right? And that was really what came down. So we've instituted new checks and balances to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Somebody still costing her.
We understand.
And his taxes and everything for this little fix.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just to add, in these bridge projects, do they access any proposals down the road to actually elevate that road? Because I'm sure anyone here can tell you, even at an abnormally high tide, there's already salt water over parts of that road. So are we doing an in-between step that would eventually, that whole road would have to be elevated? Or are we spending, I believe the gentleman said it correctly, 3-point-something million for a temporary elevation that would eventually have to be incorporated into, I'm assuming the state is responsible for that whole road. Correct, that's a state.
Correct.
And I mean, there's numerous times I drive over there and there's salt water over the road. And I'm sure anybody here could.
Right.
So do they consider that before we run out and spend $3 or $4 million? 10 years from now, will they have to elevate the road and do something with the bridges? Or does anybody even incorporate that in the plan?
So right now, again, the whole reason we're here is really to address that. We have to comply with that statute, and that's kind of the direction that we've been getting, is to comply with that. We can certainly take your comment back and bring that again as you know, Derek said.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the answer.
But right now, that's our target, to address the.
So right now, this is basically an issue of access.
Correct, the recreation.
Rather than total elevation down the road.
Correct.
Thank you. That's-
Well, let's
that's clear there.
Where's the question? Oh, yeah, but somebody raised hand online, I just wanna go back online for a second.
Yeah.
I will get back to you, sir, okay? It's John Oven.
I was.
Bigger or less?
Maybe in the chat.
John, you should be able to unmute, John.
There should be a Q&A.
Hello?
You raised the ball.
Can I be heard now?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
okay. I've lived on the marsh or near the marsh since the early 90s. And I just want to disagree with a couple of the comments made tonight from the audience that this bridge was always at least 4 to 5 inches higher, the clearance, than the Plum Bank, the Back River Bridge. And if you're trying to get in or out with a kayak, that at a high tide, that 4 or 5 inches makes a huge difference on being able to get in and out. I personally know that just in the last couple of years, there have been 2 kayakers trying to get through the Back River Bridge that have capsized because they had to get down so low to get in or out and got swept up against the docks on the other side. So I think there's a little safety issue too, and I'm glad that the state is addressing it now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Was there any other question in written form?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Oh, okay, I'll get back to you, sir. I think someone else was raising hand before, I'll get back to you, sorry about that. Yes, sir, yes, you good? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, if a couple of kayakers had a problem, is that worth $3 million, and everybody having to take a 4-mile detour for probably several months, so that those kayakers maybe have to wait an hour before they go into the bridge?
Again, unfortunately, it's the state statute that requires us to maintain that access, that recreational access of what it was before, so we're, no.
I don't remember. Which is responsible for the state statute. Their name?
Well, it's the legislature and there are coastal regulations that are.
But there's gotta be a person that does this, right?
It's really, again, statutes are the legislators that are responsible for putting those
They
together.
don't want to be assistant.
So we'll talk to him.
Well, you're.
Well, you. I was gonna say, so, you know, when statutes are either, you know, created or amended. So it does go through the legislature. A lot of it, though, in this situation would probably come either from DOT or DEEP in the governor's office. If we were to put together a statute related to this that the DOT commissioner or the DEEP commissioner didn't like, the likelihood that it passes is pretty slim. But it is, it is going forward. I would suggest you can reach out to me. We are not in the legislative session right now. So when the legislative session begins in January, you will have a new state representative. I don't know who your state senator is going to be. I don't know who the governor is going to be, but that would be the time to think about policy changes regarding this. This statute, I'm not sure when this statute was written or when this section was put in there. It could have been decades ago, I'm not sure. But that's what I would do. And this is obviously not going away because it's not going to be constructed for 2 years. So, that's really my best advice is whomever is your state representative or state senator, reach out to them, tell them
your concerns related to this project and the statute in general. And hopefully someone will propose something to at least get the conversation started, regardless of whether the DOT or DEEP supports it or opposes it. So that's what I would do. And I would just ask, and I want to thank you for coming, but I would just ask you, just to, certainly take these comments to heart. I mean, these folks have been living in that area for a very long time. They know this area better than probably anybody. And they're very important comments, so.
There is no first. Oh, you good? How about you, Matt? Yeah.
Yeah, who is making you redo this bridge? What department? Is it Amanda's department or is it DEP? Who is saying do this job?
It's basically in compliance. It's working because we are, we obtained a permit to do the original work. It's basically a violation of that permit. So it's through the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, which we are now trying to have to comply.
It's called saying you have to redo this. That's what we talked to.
We
That's what
talked to them. We basically brought it to their attention and
You brought it to them.
we brought it to our
Okay,
attention.
you saw there was an issue.
Yep,
And they're saying, yes, now you have to
you need to
redo
comply
it.
with that.
Just trying to figure out the sequence of
Yeah.
how we make changes.
Yeah.
Do we go to deep first, DOT first, legislation first? We want some changes made. That whole area is a mess. Flooding all the time. So not just this issue, there's flooding issues. Is anybody looking at flooding? Is there, anyone here that's looking at the flooding issue?
No one here. We're all the bridge folks, right?
Okay.
So we're focused on the bridges. I can't speak to anything from the department side if they're looking at a corridor.
That should be
Discussion.
just because it's very, like you said, in a few years, it's gonna be worse and worse. You're gonna go for 8 inches now, which is great. But the flooding is worse and worse. The creek is so high now. It never was that high. Comes over the road almost, once a month at least. And many times you cannot drive through there, many times. So someone should be looking at flooding, and I don't know, does anybody here know who is looking at flooding?
Well, we can go back to the department and see if there's any studies going on. It's definitely, we're all aware along the coastline, right, state of Connecticut, the issues of the flooding. Understand too, if we were to raise, let's just hypothetically, right, if we were to raise this state route, there's a lot of right of way impacts. Think of all the homes and driveways and everything leading up to that road. And it would be a very significant project, a lot of impacts affecting a lot of people, right? So that would be a process in itself just to work through. Now, back to
We
your.
can start now.
Understood.
It's getting worse every.
Understood. So we'll bring that back and we'll see if there's anything happening and we can definitely address those comments. Again, this meeting here is to document everybody's comments, right? That's what we're here to do. We are bound by the statutes. We're bound to fix this issue. And here we are listening to your comments, and that's what we're going to bring back. We're documenting them, and we will work with Connecticut DEEP as one of the regulators with the permits, and we'll let them know what everybody's saying here. So.
She was first.
Is there any commission that can override this for this one bridge?
What's the question? Is there any commission?
For a commissioner, commission, legislature, I mean.
Ask like a favor, like kind of.
Like, I would say, we're not gonna approve them, that it's ridiculous.
Well, again, the first aspect is to hear the public's comments, right? So we're going to document that, bring that back. We've had our legal, someone mentioned our legal department has vetted this in and out, and we'll continue seeing if there's other avenues. Right now, we're bound by the statute. So is there a specific commission that you can bring it to? I think it's bring it to your legislators, and we will bring it back to our internal staff, and attacking it from different fronts may be helpful. At that.
So it's kind of, forget it, the rest of the way.
No, ma'am, I didn't. That's not what I said. No, we're taking your comments down, and we will assess how we can handle them.
This week.
Hi, Brianna Cachullo from Hearst, Connecticut. So the bridge was fully replaced in 2021 for about $2.5 million, and now this is expected to cost about $3.4 million. Why does it cost so much more, nearly $1 million more to raise a bridge than to build an entirely new one?
Because the work that needs to be done requires a significant expertise. Because you're gonna be separating the super from the substructure. So we have to have a contractor on board that has done a similar work, have to excavate and then cut the entire length horizontal. Cut it, separate it, and then jet it. So that's what driving the cost of.
Specialty work, in addition, I think everybody knows inflation since 2021.
Right.
And I'm not just saying that for an excuse. We've seen our price of our projects triple in in the state, and it's been pretty incredible. So put those two together, the specialty work, he is right. I mean, it's surgical work in the bridge world to do this type of work.
Understand that as he checks it, he should not, or a contractor should avoid damaging the component that's stay in place. So it's a risk involved with it as well.
There's,
He was here, okay, let me go back.
And just quick, can you clarify the Plum Bank Bridge, the structure, the height that's there? Is it the same height as the Great Hammock, the Back River Bridge? I mean, there are two identical built original bridges.
I don't have.
Yeah, we don't have that.
I don't know if the elevations are the same.
I don't believe the original constructions were not the same original elevations. I think this one was higher.
So Plum Bank is higher. Right.
Yes, I think
Was
Plum Bank was always
higher.
higher.
Traveled on that bridge. Yeah. So the Great Hammock Bridge then, from what I travel under it and what I travel, to me appears to be lower than Plum Bank, right? It's lower, that bridge, because I can boat underneath the Plum Bank, try to get under Great Hammock. Just a question, that's all. Because I think you're gonna be back.
So this is the third bridge that you're talking about? It's not a Black River?
Right. Back River.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Good parent. Okay, gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
they can't do like one of the pre-built bridges. Cut down the time.
Yeah, you talked about a pre-made bridge, yeah, those are gonna be temporary, so it's not permanent. So we have those bridges, at some locations in the state, but they're meant to be temporary, not permanent. So we, they're gonna stay there for a couple of years and then we have to put the permanent one in. Because the issue with the redundancy and inspection, so they're not gonna be as redundant or resilient as concrete structures like this, so.
And for every project, we look at multiple alternatives, so we went through different variations, we presented to our management, we're looking for the most cost efficient, least impact, and that's how we came to this proposal, and I know.
Not for us.
Well, actually comparatively to some of the alternatives, this is the lower alternative one that we presented, because we do our investigation, we do due diligence for, because there's a bunch of different alternatives, and the other thing is, this bridge is in such great condition that, we actually looked at a partial replacement, and we don't wanna do that on a 5-year-old structure that's in great shape, and the cost of that would have been even greater.
Any more comments, questions, concerns? Yes, sir. I'll get back there.
What's the expected design life of the bridge?
So, yeah, we aim for 75-year design life, the service life is about 100 years, somewhere between 75 to 100, that's what the department aims. So, again, from design life standpoint, we've been in service for 4 years, so it's not. That's why I was telling her that as we do this work, we're gonna avoid and not damaging the component that's staying there. So design.
So doesn't the state have a forecasted sea level rise? Like 20 inches by 2050? Isn't that the Connecticut deep number? That's by 2050, so that's like what, 24 years? And you're talking 100-year bridge. You're going back 100 years with your reference level. It doesn't make any sense. You guys are way off, and this is the whole
big picture. You're off by feet. How can a professional engineer sign off on this bridge design? It's unacceptable. I'm an engineer, not a lawyer. I don't know all the statutes. I'm an engineer. This is unacceptable.
It's a matter of really of balancing, right?
It's not a balance act. It's poor engineering.
No.
You're ignoring a whole dynamic. The sea has already come up. In the last 100 years, it's forecasted to come up. It makes sense to raise the bridge. You know, I understand you're not gonna change it at this meeting. You're looking for feedback. I'm giving you my feedback.
As you keep saying again, just raising the bridge itself is not gonna solve the issue, so we have to raise, you know, way beyond the bridge. So, but that's gonna bring all these people's property on letting the road 4 or 5 feet below the
I
road.
understand that.
So that's gonna, so
And as everybody else in here has been saying, you know, the whole road, we need like a holistic solution, not a piece that's designed incorrectly that we're gonna be redoing in probably 10 or 20 years again.
the goal was again, as John said earlier, the spot improvement, meaning the bridge is not in a good condition back then, and we had to address just the bridge
And
alone.
as you know, these studies take time. You know, if we waited for that, the bridge would have gotten, it would have been serious and it could have been an emergency. So it's all this balancing. We're structural engineers, you know, our goal there, you know, that was our prime directive, and based on the area we did, you know, that was the best that could be done. And obviously, not considering the oversight of the report, but it's trying to do the best within the area. And it really comes down to how these projects become initiated. What's the end goal? In this case, it was, we had a poor condition structure that's being addressed.
And I think what most of us are saying is that you're doing this little jet, you're gonna raise this bridge 8.5 inches. It's not gonna change anything until it has to be raised a lot. So why put us all through this?
It comes, I know it's not the answer you want to hear. It comes back to the state statute.
I know, the state statute, but.
Yep.
And somebody's gotta be able to say no, don't they?
Well, and we are gonna have those conversations,
And
and that's why we definitely wanna know opposition, because going to the regulators, we can now say that, you know, that we have a bunch of different stakeholders that we try and work with here, the public being, you know, a very important one of them. The regulators is another one. So kind of going with them and saying, you know, we kind of have some public pushback on this, we're gonna go to them, and that, you know, might change their perception on how they want to work with us on, you know, on that. So I can't make any promises. We have to still have those conversations, but certainly we're documenting everything. We're gonna, you know, this is all gonna be done. We're gonna put a recorded meeting that becomes available. This is all gonna go through all of our management. And then we have those follow-up meetings. Amanda's gonna set up with the regulators. So we have those conversations, and this isn't caught by surprise. We knew this wasn't gonna be.
And thank you for listening to us.
No, we appreciate the feedback, because like your state rep said, you guys are the experts of the area. Because, you know, kind of going is, you know, we go in and we try and consider everything as best we can, but we're never gonna know as much as a resident who's, you know, been here for years.
Get back to, yes, sir.
Yes, I'm going back to what I said at the beginning. 2 years ago, you did this bridge thing. Whatever it cost all this money, right? The 2 some million, whatever. And now, blame, I don't know who to blame or how much. But they had gone through the engineering, went through this and everything, so it's gotta be brought up to this height. Who screwed up at that time that it's 8 inches lower? And now we're spending 3.4 million, whatever, to take care of that you're only gonna bring it up 8 inches? It doesn't make sense as far as I'm concerned. And then 10 years down the line, you gotta raise it even higher. I don't, someone screwed up, and now we gotta, as taxpayers in the state of Connecticut, are spending money to do a bridge over, and everybody's inconvenient again for how long? To bring this thing just up 8, where it probably should be going up higher. If you're gonna do it, it should go higher. So it's almost a waste. It's a total waste. You can't get in under that bridge. The tides are higher, the marsh is flooded. I don't know. I just don't know what the point is.
No, it's being recorded, they have a little concern, so we'll really consider that. I'll get back. Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay. We as a group here, we are the stakeholders. We're a small group. we're very vocal. But, you know, if you're looking at this regulatory commission, they're gonna look at statewide, and they're gonna say, oh, well, there's only a couple of people that are complaining about, you know. We're gonna go do it anyways.
Well, again, I'm not the expert on the legality side of it, so I don't know what the number it should be, you know.
But I mean, you know, I think if somebody, if they said, you know, if you took a vote, and I think everybody in this room would say they're against it. Sure, and definitely, I'm not against, I'm against spending $3.5 million. The rate 3.5 and 8.5 inches.
It's good noted, yeah, it's good noted.
To his point, the people making the decision have no regard to what's going on here, you know, 20, 30 people show up, voice their opinions, they don't care. They're gonna do what they wanna do. It's a state legislature, we're a little small group, one little pissant bridge in Saybrook. What's $3.4 million to these legislators? Nothing. They wanna get, they want the votes, well then, listen to the people. If the people don't want it, 8.5 inches, $3.4 million for 8.5 inches. Come on. Where's the common sense in this whole situation? You got roads flooding and you're building a little pissant bridge.
Mike, I think you were the first one.
I just wanted to make a comment, designing coastal resistance doesn't mean you build roads so that a 100-year flood is above that elevation. Coastal resistance means that the roadways and the bridges can survive a 100-year flood or a 500-year flood. These 154 is never gonna be raised. I think their flood elevation is 9.2 feet. The poles are, you're not gonna, that's, I'm gonna say 4 feet above the roadway. You're not gonna elevate that roadway 4 feet. You're gonna design the roadway and the bridges so it can be overtopped, and then the flood recedes, the road is still there and the bridges are still there. It's not practical to build everything for what you perceive as a 100-year event, and then 50 years later, wow, it's even higher. So design for coastal resistance is so things resist the floods, so that these bridges can survive the storms and then be drivable afterwards.
Right, I agree with that, but the road should not flood at a normal high tide.
Well, no,
Routinely.
the flood, that area is in a flood area. It's gonna flood. It's like people beside the Mississippi when it floods in the spring. You say, why the hell don't those people move?
Right, but it
But
floods
that's,
at a
if you're
high
worried about
tide.
flooding, well, don't live on 154 in that area, because that's a flooding area. It's gonna flood. Always has, always will.
Any more comments, questions, concerns? Yes, sir.
Just one last thing, listening to everybody. I think one of the balances here that we're trying to understand is. We're gonna spend $4 million. It's like, putting a fuel filter in your car, knowing down the road you're gonna need a whole tune-up. Is that considered, like, Mike was explaining it very well. That at some point, spending 3-point-something million to cure an issue that we're gonna have to spend 30 million on down the road. Do they consider that before they say go lift the bridge up 8.5 inches? Is there an entity that, I think that's what the lady was asking. Is there an entity that looks into that? I guess you refer to it as a waste of money. Because if you can't drive over the road to get to the bridge, well, why do you bother to raise the bridge 10 inches? I mean, it's all, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but that's how I look at it. If I can't get to the bridge, what good is the bridge?
So, but I want you to understand that the storm events that has a probability of occurrence of every 100 years, so that doesn't mean that's gonna happen every day.
No, but I'm saying right now, if somebody was to go down there, they'd see it every extreme high tide. The road's flooding over, and unless somebody here, I'm crazy. I drive it just about every day, and I can tell you when there's an abnormal, usually a full moon. The road gets flooded. And, I would think that would be part of the judgment of spending X. Like I say, if guys said you need a fuel filter, but you need a tune, I do the tune-up because the fuel filter is included.
So,
yeah.
so understand that, going back to the statute, right, so. We're not doing this corrective project to address the flooding of the roadway.
Right.
The bridge was designed and built to resist overtopping as it stands now.
Right.
So in theory, should that area flood significantly, the bridge would remain. Okay, the statute is specific to the recreational vessels passing under the structure. So the additional 8.5 inches is supposed to provide the same recreational access that it was originally. So that's the intent.
Back to that access.
That's the intent of the statute.
Basically the fundamental issue.
That's the intent of the statute. That's the purpose of this corrective project. With that said, we take every comment seriously, and we really do, okay? Whether it's 20 people or one person that shows up, we take it seriously, we document it, and we bring it back. So, yes, there's a consideration of the entire state when we're looking at it, but I'm assuming all of you live in the area. So there's a heavier impact for those that live in the area versus everybody else outside of the city. So, so it's noted. We're noting everything here.
What you're saying, it all boils down to recreational access because of the state regulation.
Correct.
And the people that write the regulation never know, have never looked at that bridge at high tide or low tide.
And it takes conversations like this and coming to the public to understand what the differences are. And that's what we're doing, documenting. There's no guarantee or promise that we won't do this project. However, I think there's a consensus here, right, from most of you that you're opposing the project, and that's what we're gonna bring back. But we needed to come here to hear that, right?
We're opposing it because we don't understand why we're spending the money.
Understood.
This nominal increase because of the state regulation probably written 100 years ago, it doesn't have no, we're irrelevant at this point.
Yes, ma'am.
The point is for recreation, which I'm all for. How can 8 inches, you'll be able to get a boat under there now?
The intent is to match what was,
We got boats under there. Everybody here probably got a boat under there, not a little skiff or a paddleboard, a boat. You had to duck your head and go under, but we all could get a boat under there.
okay,
I don't think you can do that now, and I don't think 8 inches is going to make a difference for the our boat's not recreational.
so
go
can I,
higher. We're
Yeah.
spending all that money. Go
All right.
higher. And then come back down and we'll flood later and worry about that later. But right now.
Yeah. So the original bridge, right before we constructed or during designs, call it 2020. Were you able to pass a boat under there?
2020?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
The original bridge?
The original bridge, yeah.
In 2020.
Both.
Both of them.
Both. Yep.
In 2020.
They're both of them.
Right, yep.
So in theory, you should be able to pass under.
Only one bridge. There ain't the other one now. Right.
How many times a year do you do that?
Just it's something that people will do in the
Once-
future. Your children, right? Yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's
it's
limit
fine.
$4 million so that you can't go under at high tide. I mean, how about wait an hour?
Well, they messed up in the beginning, they lowered it, they should have to hire 8
They
inches
should.
higher, so all
But
that
now-
money was spent for nothing.
But now do we want to close that road for a couple of months, spend $3.4 million? Make a whole lot of people just to get to school, go 4 miles out of their way every day. I don't know.
Here's
My only question is, on voting. There's a posted sign that says no wake area in the creeks area.
6 miles.
After you go over the bridge. Yeah, when you go under the bridge, there's a posted sign, says no wake area. So that means you can only use paddleboard know,
this is saying that it's just 6 months.
Something with a 3 horsepower motor.
It's been 44 years and you've been going on. And you turn
No, no, that,
You're
that,
on really fast on the highway, so that's how it's-
no, that came up, a few years ago. When that was posted over by Great Hammond. The posted no wake
It
area.
does, I understand that. It's there, but
Okay.
folks can go that slow. They don't go.
Yeah.
They don't make a way.
That's right.
They don't make a.
Yeah, so
The
that,
point is just getting the boat on.
I mean, you can go under, you can take a small boat and go under it. But you can't go any place, so you gotta go, just, gotta go to a wake area. So that's gonna be limited on your recreational boating.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
We should let that young man get home to his 2-year-old. He's asleep, so I hope, I don't know, maybe not.
Wake them up. They're in trouble.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and listening to us.
Well, we thank you for all your feedbacks and comments, concerns. We'll definitely, everything will be noted, recorded. And we'll take it from there and we'll with it and we'll process it.
One point comment, would it make a difference how many people email you with your comments? Would that help, your fighting it or?
Certainly doesn't hurt. Again, it doesn't hurt. Again, keep you guys email to John's email, right, John? It's-
Yeah.
So,
Can you, Graham, put that actor?
yeah,
Yep.
we're gonna post this on the website, but if you wanna take a picture of the,
Yeah, I was born in Canada. We've been here for 40 years.
yeah, that's the email
Yep.
up on top. Saybrook.
Oh, in Saybrook, it's 40.
So again,
40 something.
and, email.
Wonderful. And feel free to, if you wanna come up closer to get a better picture of it, you're welcome to.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a good night.
No, I worked with the Department of Transportation.